Welcome. This video is a tutorial on how to create templates in Tempida. If you have not already done so, make sure you've watched the basic functions video, which is available from the help menu. To create new templates in Tempida or to define fields on a template, you must be in design mode. So simply click the design button to go into design mode. The first thing we have to learn when creating templates is how to create fields. So let's go over that now. Let's suppose we want to create a field that represents which side a patient has a problem with, for example, right or left. The first thing we should do is create a label for the field. A label is just simply text that tells what this field is about. So we created a label here called side. Now, how do we actually create a field? To create a field, just put your cursor where you want to create the field and click the field button. The field button allows us to create fields. So you'll see that once you click the field button, the field inspector shows up. There's a bunch of items in the field inspector, including the name of the field up here, whether we want to cancel or save this field, and what type of field it is. There's 4 different field types in Tempida: a single selection field, a multiple selection field, a date field, or a smart field. Since we're just going to create a field that represents which side a patient has, we're going to keep it as a single selection field. When Tempida first creates a field, it assigns a number to the field. It's always a good idea to change this number to a name that's more descriptive. So for example, for this field, we'll change this to just side to be the name of the field. The boxes below show you the different values that you want to put in this field. So for example, for this field that we're going to represent whether something's right or left, we're just going to put in right in the first line and left in the second. You can add more items if you want, but for this particular field, we're just going to add 2. And then click the Save button. That's all it takes to create a field. You just created your first field. So to test this field, you must go back into Edit mode. Once you're in Edit mode, just click on the word, and it will automatically flip to the opposite word. So in this example, we just created a toggle field that toggles between 2 values. It's always a good idea in Tempida to take your label and make it bold so that it stands out. Now let's create a different field. Maybe we want to create a list of items that we can select a single item from, which is called a single select field. Again, let's create a label for this field. Let's suppose this field that we're creating is going to represent which finger on a hand a patient has injured. I can actually type the first item in the list right here, and then select this word, and then go into design mode. Remember, you must be in design mode to create templates or fields, and then click the field button. Notice how Tempida automatically puts the first item in for me when I type the word in, and then select it before hitting field. We're going to go ahead and give this field a name. We'll just call it finger. And then fill in the rest of the items for the different fingers that we want to include. Once we're done entering our values, we can click the Save button to save this field. Remember, this Save button only saves this field. It doesn't save the entire template. To save the entire template back to the cloud, click this Save button up here. This Save button only shows up when you're in design mode. Now we've just created a single selection field. We can go into Edit mode again to test this field out. And we'll go ahead and make the label bold. Now let's create a free text field. A free text field is a field that you can type free text into. So let's suppose we want this field to represent the patient's age in years. So we'll give it a label, and then go into design mode and click the field button. We'll give it the field a name, and the age of a patient can be multiple values from 1 to 100. So we don't want to enter 100 different values into this list. So we're just going to put a bunch of underscore characters on this line to indicate that this is a free text field, and then hit the Save button. Now we've created a free text field. We'll go ahead and make the label bold and then test this field out. So we'll go into edit mode and then click on the free text field. And then you can type in the actual patient's age, just like that. You should use free text fields very sparingly in Tempida. Free text fields take time to type into. It's much better to create a single selection field, if possible, for a particular item because it's easier to point and click on an item than to type in long areas of text. But free text fields do make sense for items that would require a long list otherwise, like this age field. Notice that all three of these fields are all single selection fields. So if we go back into design mode and then click on a field, that allows us to edit that field. So for example, this toggle field at the top, we'll notice that the type is single. So a toggle field is a single selection field with exactly 2 items. Clicking on a different field while in design mode will allow you to edit that field. So for example, in this field, we'll click this finger field here, and then that will come up in the field inspector. So a single selection field, which is a list, is a single selection field with more than 2 items. For example, in this one, we have 5 items. And a free text field is a single selection field with exactly 1 item. So all 3 of these fields are created the same way by using single select fields, and the only difference is the number of items in the list. So a single selection field with 1 item is a free text field. A single selection field with 2 items is a toggle field. And a single selection field with more than 2 items is a list from which you can select a single item. Now you'll notice that in this particular single selection field, there's a checkbox next to the item little. The checkbox represents the default value for this field. So it's important that whenever you create a field that you select the default value that will be the one that is the most often used for this template. This ensures the minimum number of clicks required to complete a template. Once you're done making your selections and changes, make sure to click the Save button to save the changes for this field. Now let's create a multi-selection field. To do that, we'll give it a label, and then click the Field button. We'll give it a name, and then select Multiple as the field type. Notice that there's a couple of other options that show up for multi-selection fields, but we'll go ahead and put in the different items for this particular field. For multi-select fields, the default items can be multiple items. So check the items that you want to have selected for a multi-select field, and then click the Save button. We'll go ahead and make our label bold and test out this field. We'll test it out by going into edit mode and then clicking on the field. Notice how the items that we had selected as default when we created the field are automatically selected for us. From here, we can select other items and deselect items we don't want, and then click the X button to save the changes. Tempida automatically formats the text properly for reading. So for example, here it puts in commas and an and before the last item. If we only selected 2 items, then it just adds the 2 together with an and. Now let's suppose that we want to change this field so it also displays the items that were not selected. We'll go back into design mode and click on the field to edit the field. When the field inspector comes up, to show both positive and negative items in a multi-selection field, you must put some text for the positive text and the negative text. The positive text is a text that's displayed in front of selected items, and the negative text is the text that's displayed in front of items that were not selected. So for example, in the positive text for this field, we'll go ahead and put in the words complains of. And in the negative text, we'll put in denies. And then click the Save button to save the field. Notice what happens to the text of this field now. The text now reads complains of chills and body aches because those are the items that were selected in this field, but denies cough, fever, or myalgia. So if we want to change these values, you can simply go back into edit mode and click on the field and change the selections that we want to make. Once we click the X button, the text of this field automatically changes for us to reflect the new values. Now let's create a date field. To do that, we'll go ahead and create a label for the field, and then go into design mode and click the field button. We'll go ahead and give this field a name, and then select date as the field type. Date fields can have one of 4 different formats. You can access the formats by clicking this button. Date fields can also include the time if needed. So for this particular date field, we'll go ahead and select this as the date format, and then click the Save button. Notice how Tempida automatically puts in the current date into date fields. This is very useful in that if you open a new template that contains a date field, the current date is automatically entered for you. We'll finish this date field by making the label bold. You can edit date fields by clicking on a date field. So clicking on this date field allows us to edit the value of this date. The date is entered in month, day, and year format. Now let's look at a few more details in the field inspector. We'll go back into design mode and select this field to inspect it. You'll notice up here that there's a checkbox that says can be blank. If this checkbox is checked, then Tempida will put another item when you select this field in a template that will be a completely blank item. Selecting that blank item will make this field completely blank. This button here, the plus up arrow button, allows you to add a line above the current line. So clicking this will add a line above the current line. Clicking the delete button will delete a line from this particular field. If you don't want to save changes that you've made to the field, just click the cancel button. If you want to delete a field entirely, select on an existing field and click the delete button. Now let's go ahead and create a mirror field. A mirror field is a field that mirrors the value of another field on the document. To do this, we'll go ahead and go into the body of the document and put our cursor where we want to create the mirror field. Then we'll go into design mode and click the mirror button. Once we do this, we'll be prompted to select a field that's already existing in the document to mirror. So for example, if we want to mirror the side field right here, you simply select that field. The field is now mirrored. Mirror fields are linked together so that changing the value of one field will automatically change the value of the other. So if we go back into edit mode and click on either field, the other field will automatically change. You can have multiple mirrors of the same field in a single template. For example, if we want to mirror this field again, right here in this template, simply click the cursor where you want to put the new mirror, go to design mode, hit mirror, and then select the field you want to mirror. Now we have 3 mirrors of the same field in this template. If you go into edit mode and change the value of any single mirror, the other mirrors automatically change. The duplicate function is very similar to the mirror function. If we want to duplicate a field, we simply put the cursor where we want to have the new duplicated field be at, go into design mode, click the duplicate button, and then select the field we want to duplicate. A duplicated field, unlike a mirrored field, is not linked to the original field and is a separate field on its own. So for example, now that we've duplicated this finger field, if we go into edit mode and select a different value for this field, the other field's value does not change since they are 2 separate fields. But the field definitions for both of these are the same. So if you go into design mode and look at this new field that we've duplicated, you'll see that the name of it is copy of a finger. You can change the name to something else that you want and save the changes. But these are 2 separate fields, even though the items in the field are the same. The final type of field we need to learn about are smart or calculated fields. Smart fields are the real workhorse of Tempida. They are the fields that will automatically put in calculated values for you and perform logic on Tempida templates. Smart fields work by using if-then statements like those used in programming code. If you have even a basic understanding of if-then statements, then smart fields will be very familiar to you. If you don't understand if-then statements, don't worry, we're going to go over them right now. I've opened a plain text editor outside of Tempida to help illustrate how if-then statements work in Tempida. So in this example, you'll see that the top line says the plan field equals injections, because that's what we've selected. We want the logic of what's placed here in this smart field to go through these lines of logic. If the field named plan equals injections, then enter the text given here, and so on for the other different values selected in the plan field. So if the plan field equals surgery, then enter the text I have elected to schedule the patient for surgery. These if-then statements are given in plain English text and are easy to understand. So how do we translate this into a format that Tempida can understand? Let's take a look and see how this works. Here's an example of an if-then statement written in plain English at the top that anyone can understand. The second line is the translation of what this statement needs to look like inside of Tempida for Tempida to understand it. If you look at this statement, you can see what the different parts of the statement are. The question mark represents the if. The second part, which is the name of the field enclosed in curly braces, represents the value of a field. So in this example, this would be read as the value of the field named plan. So the beginning of this line should be read as if the value of the field named plan equals surgery, the colon is the then. And then after the colon represents what you should enter into this current smart field. So this line can be read as if the value of the field named plan equals surgery, then in this smart field, enter the text I have elected to schedule the patient for surgery. Notice how the values and the text have to be enclosed in double quotes, just like we've done here. All text in smart fields, unlike other fields, have to be enclosed in double quotes like we've done. Now I've gone ahead and entered all the 4 values for the 4 separate possible choices of the plan field and what the corresponding text should be in the smart field. Now we need to go ahead and take this and actually place it into a smart field to program the smart field. So let's go ahead and do that. First, we'll go back into the template and click on where we want to create the smart field. Make sure we're in design mode and click field. Then for the field type, we'll select smart. You'll see that Tempida automatically puts in the if and then portions of an if-then statement for you. Then you can manually enter in the values you want. So for example, we can put in something like this for the first line. We can do the same for all the rest of the lines. Once we've entered all the lines we want for this smart field, simply click the Save button to save this field. Let's go ahead and try this out. We'll go back into edit mode and see what happens when we change the selection for the plan field. Let's suppose we select surgery. Notice how the text down here changes to the text for the surgery. If you change it to something else, then the text down here automatically changes that. You'll notice that when we designed the smart field, a new window showed up on the left. This is called the Field Assistant. The Field Assistant makes entering smart field values very simple and easy. Sometimes it's very cumbersome to sit there and type in all of this stuff into a smart field, and including the formatting. Let's see how we can create a smart field in a much simpler way. We'll hit cancel here and actually delete this field. So to delete a field, we'll go ahead and select the field and click the delete button and confirm that we want to delete it. Now we'll go ahead and erase this text so that our cursor is where we want to create a new field, and click the field button. Make smart the type of the field because we want it to be a smart field, and then we'll use the Field Assistant to make creating a smart field really easy. You'll notice in the Field Assistant, this will list all the different fields in a particular template that already exist. So for example, here's our plan field. If we click the down arrow next to the plan field, it'll show us the different values that are in the plan field. There's a bunch of buttons here that makes entering text into the smart field area very easy. So for example, if I put my mouse here and click this button, it'll automatically enter the name of the field enclosed in curly braces for me. If I click this button though, this is a very powerful button. Clicking this button will basically take all the options in the plan field and automatically create an item in a smart field for me. So for example, I'm going to click this button here, and notice how it automatically fills in the 4 separate values for me and all the proper formatting. So all I have to do here now is, in between these two double quotes, is put in the text for the values that I want. So for example, for this injection field, I can put in this text. And I can do the same for all the separate 4 values. So this makes creating smart fields very easy. Any line that you don't want to have, simply click the delete button to delete it, and then click the save button. I've added a new item to the injection field to demonstrate how default values in smart fields work. I've added a new item called cast, and then we'll go ahead and modify this smart field down here to accommodate that. So I'll go into design mode and click on the field to open it. You see here that for the first 4 items, we have an if-then statement to cover those. For the 5th item in the plan field, which is the cast item that I added, we're going to use a default value. The way smart fields work in Tempida is that Tempida starts evaluating the first item of a smart field to see if it's true. If it's true, then it executes the text after the then, which is represented by the colon. If the first item is not true, then it goes to the next item, and then the next item until it finds one that is true. If it doesn't find one that is true, then it can execute a default value. To enter a default value into a smart field, simply erase the text that's there and put the value in double quotes. And then click the save button. Now when we go back into edit mode and select cast, then the default value will be displayed. So far we've been using the equals evaluator in smart fields. There are other evaluators that you can use. So for example, when we open up this field here, you'll see that all of these lines use the equals evaluator. The other evaluators that you can use are listed in the field assistant right here. If you put your mouse over one of the evaluators, it tells you what that evaluator is. So for example, the $ means selected. We can change this line of the smart field to use the selected indicator by using the $ and then the number of the item that's selected. Now this line reads, if the field name plan has the first item selected, then execute this text. We can do the same for the second line. This line now reads, if the field name plan has a second item selected, then execute this text. The exclamation point in front of an evaluator means not. So for example, this evaluator means not selected. So if I put an exclamation point in front of this selected indicator, this line now reads, if the field name plan does not have the second item selected, then execute this text. We can also use the not evaluator in front of the equal sign. So this line now reads, if the field name plan does not equal surgery, then execute this text. There are multiple other evaluators that you can use, which are covered in more detail in the advanced field creation video. I've created a new toggle field named side that represents the side that the patient is being seen for. But let's suppose we want to use this new side field and use it inside this smart field. Let's see how to do that. So when we're in design mode, we'll go ahead and click on the smart field to look at its definition. Here is the line that determines what to do if the injection is selected in the plan field. And we want to change this text so that it also includes the side the patient is being seen for. All we have to do in order to do that is to go into the text and add some words. And right here we wanted to insert the side that we are injecting. To do this, we'll go at the end of the quote, hit the plus button, and then put the side field in curly braces, and then another plus button, and then the rest of the text. And then hit the save button. We'll see what happens when that happens. So you can see here now, this text now reads, I've elected to give the patient a cortisone injection into his right side. If we go into edit mode and change the side to a different side, then automatically even the text in the smart field changes. So if we go back into design mode and look at the statement a little closer, you can see that Tempida can add pieces of text together using the plus sign. So Tempida, when it evaluates this, takes this block of text, then adds the text of the side field, and then adds this block of text. There's a shortcut button that allows you to enter fields into Smart Fields very easily. So for example, on the second line, let's suppose we also want to include the side field. We're going to go ahead and put our cursor right here. Then we'll go ahead and use this button here. This button here does all the work for us for entering a field into a block of text. So clicking on this button will automatically break the block of text, enter the text value of the field, and then complete the text. Now we simply just add the final word for this text and then hit save. So you'll see now that if when we select physical therapy as a plan, the side field is included in the text, and if we change this to a different value, then automatically this lower part will also change. Now that we know how to create fields inside of Tempida, let's go ahead and create a brand new template. The easiest way to do this is actually to take an existing template and then modify it. To do that, go ahead and find an existing template. It could be one that you own, or it could be one that's available publicly, made by somebody else, and then open it. Now, what you want to do to create a new template from this template is use the Save As button to save a copy of this template as a new template. Give the new template a name, and then save it as either public or private. Now we're working on a copy of the template. Now you can make modifications in this template and save the changes, and all the field definitions from previous are automatically retained for you. Another easy way to create templates is to take existing templates and copy the fields from one template to another. To do this, open an existing template like this, and then select the fields you want to copy. So for example, if we want to copy these 5 fields, just select them, and then copy them. You can use Command-C on a Mac or Control-C on a PC to copy the text. Now you're going to hit the New Tab button to create a new tab with a blank document. Then click where you want to paste this text, then use Command-V on a Mac or Control-V on a PC to paste the text. Tempida pastes the text in the place requested, but notice that it also copies the fields along with all the field definitions so that you don't have to redefine them. This makes it really easy to use existing templates as a basis from which to create new templates. But let's suppose we want to create a template completely from scratch. How do we do that? The first thing we're going to need to do is open up a new template. Then let's go ahead and put some text into the body of the text that'll just be static text that is a sample of what this template will look like. So for example here, I pasted the text of a op note for a carpal tunnel release. You can get this text by either typing it in manually, or you can copy from your existing EHR system and paste it into Tempida. Make sure that after you paste text into Tempida, it's formatted properly and looks good. Now we have a big block of static text with no fields in it. The first thing we're going to need to do is look at the text of this document and identify which of the words or sections of text will need to be variable and changed from patient to patient. So for example, in the pre-op diagnosis, this text says right chronic carpal tunnel syndrome. Well, what if we're doing the left side? The right will need to be changed into a field. To do that, in the header, let's create a toggle field to represent the side. I've created a toggle field that represents the side that we're working on. Clicking on the field will obviously change its value. Now all we need to do is take this word at the bottom and make it a mirror of that field. So we'll go into design mode, click the mirror button, and then select the field that we created at the top to make that a mirror. Also, we can see that there's the word right in this sentence. We also want this word to mirror this field, so we'll go ahead and do that. We can also see the word right here in the bottom part of this text. We'll also go ahead and mirror that. Now that we've created these mirrors, simply changing the value of this mirror will change the value of all the text in the document. Let's go ahead and see what else could be variable in this text. The next thing that could be variable is the type of anesthesia. Sometimes you may do carpal tunnel surgery under local anesthesia, but sometimes you may do it under general anesthesia. So we'll create another toggle field for the anesthesia. I've created another toggle field for the anesthesia, and we'll mirror this word with that toggle field. When creating Tempida templates, it's always important to keep all the variables at the top in the header. This is important because then you can just simply select the variables at the top and the node at the bottom will automatically change for you. This also makes using Tempida templates incredibly fast. This is because you can simply select the variables at the top and you know that the node will automatically take care of itself. Now, if we want to change the name of the surgeon to the person that is using this template, we'll go ahead and select this text, go into the Other button, and insert the signature. Now, when Tempida outputs this text, it will automatically replace this hashtag signature word with the name of the user that is currently logged in. Another area of text that we will want to change is the date. We want to have the date represented by the current date we are doing surgery. To do this, we'll go ahead and select the date, and then we'll create a field that is a date field. And then click Save. Now Tempida will automatically enter the date of the current date that this document is being generated. If we look at the text of this document, we can see that it says local anesthesia was established with a mixture of plain lidocaine and marcaine. Well, this needs to be changed in case we're doing general anesthesia. So to accomplish this, we will make this a smart field. To do this, we'll go ahead and select this text and just copy it to the clipboard. Then we'll erase it and click Field and create a new smart field. We'll make the field type Smart, and then in the first line, we're going to check to see which selection was made for anesthesia. So we'll go into the anesthesia field here and select the first one. Tempida automatically puts in the text for me that says, if the anesthesia field has the first item selected, then we'll go ahead and put in the text we want for that situation. Then we'll put in a default value for what to do when it's not local anesthesia. And then we'll save this field. Now, whenever we change the value of the anesthesia field up here at the top, everything automatically changes, including the text in the document. If you go back to local, notice how the local anesthesia text is inserted here. And if we go to general, the general anesthesia text is inserted here. This is all the variability we will need to change in this fairly simple OpNote document. And once we're done creating the template, we have to go into design mode and click the Save button to save this back to the cloud. There are some conventions we would like everybody to use when they create new templates in Tempida. The first is to use labels for all fields in the header. And these labels should be labeled with bold text, just like it's done here. The second is to also start sections of new text in the body with bold labels. For example, the procedure here is started with a bold label that says procedure. This will become important for new features down the road that we plan on implementing for Tempida. The third is, if it's applicable for this template, to go ahead and put in the CPT code for this procedure or office visit. So I'll go ahead and do that now. The reason for doing this is purely for reference, but we think it's a useful feature when creating templates. A great way to learn how to use Tempida and to create great templates of your own is to look at existing templates that other people have created and to look at the field definitions to see how they've made the logic work. So for example, we've opened this carpal tunnel initial visit template. If we go into design mode, by the way, you can only go into design mode on a template that you own. So if you're not able to go into design mode on this template, simply save a copy of this template for yourself using the Save As function, and then you'll be the owner of the template. So let's look at some of these field definitions. The side is obviously a simple toggle field that we've already discussed. The duration is a single select field. The physical exam is a multi-select field with multiple items. Let's look at the conservative treatment field and see how it's designed. So again, when we're in design mode, you just click on a field to look at its field definition. We can see that the conservative treatment field is a multiple select field, but there's no default item selected. That's why it's currently an empty field. So you don't have to have a default item selected in multi-select fields. This concludes this video on how to create templates in Tempida. There are also 2 other videos you can watch. The first is how sharing works in Tempida, and the second is advanced features related to creating templates. Both are available from the Help menu.